Last year, I invented a brand new way to solve a Rubik's Cube without actually touching it, using an elaborate system of repelling magnets. Of course, this really is just a party trick. There's no real practical use to solving a cube without using your hands, or at least that's what I thought, until I couldn't use my hand. Recovery from my broken thumb has been going well, but slowly. And ever since then, I just haven't really been able to hold on to a cube normally. You might think it'd be a good time to practice my one-handed solving, but I've always done that with my left hand, so that's not really an option either. So that got me thinking, what if there is a practical application to solving Rubik's Cube without touching it? Of course, the method that I created last time is very slow and inconvenient, not to mention that it still took both hands to do effectively. So what if we could come up with an easier way? Last time I restricted myself that the cube could not be touching anything other than air, plus of course being mounted to the table. But if the cube's going to be touching the table all the time anyway, why not use that to our advantage? In one-handed solving, there's a technique called table abuse, where you basically force the cube against the table like this, which makes certain things like M moves a lot easier to do. But you can kind of do any move using table abuse, and it kind of negates the need to flick with your fingers at all. So here's what I'm thinking. What if, instead of attaching the cube to the table, we instead come up with a way to attach the cube to my hand? And then we can use the table to do whatever moves that we need to using table abuse. Sure, it doesn't have quite the cool factor of magnetic levitation, but I think it'll make up for that in terms of sheer practicality. And part of that is that I think this cube will also be much easier to make than last time. I'm gonna start with the same puzzle, the Chi Sail W, and now we just have to figure out how do we attach this Rubik's Cube to our hand so that we're not technically touching it. I mean, I guess we could just get a glove and like tape it on there. I mean, this kind of meets our criteria, but it would be nice if we were still able to, turn the cube. Okay. So if we still want to be able to turn all 6 sides, that basically means we can only attach to one piece. And I think the center makes the most sense, kind of like our table attachment mechanism last time. So I went ahead and designed a little mechanism that fits snugly inside of the centerpiece and then comes out into a nice little handle that we can hold on to. So let's go ahead and 3D print that out, which should allow for full control of all 6 sides of the cube, no touching required. And here it is. Before we try it out, we do have to break off all the support material and get it all cleaned up real quick. Introducing the cubing handle. Do you ever have trouble holding on to cube-shaped objects? Well, just insert the cubing handle and you will never drop it again. So as you can see, my design worked out really nice. It fits in really snugly, it's exactly the right size, and very ergonomic to hold on to. So why don't you say we try out a few turns? So just push it up against the table and... oh, wait a minute, is that a center twist? That's not exactly the kind of turn that I expected. Well, let me tighten up all the tensions real quick and see if that makes things a little bit better. Okay, hopefully that's tight enough to alleviate that problem a little bit. So let's go ahead and give it another try. And look at that, the cube actually turns. What about one of these sides over here? Wow, that is actually very doable. It's kind of weird trying to turn this opposite yellow side over here. It seems like this white side is the only one that actually wants to turn. In fact, if we just grab the cube, yeah, that one for some reason seems a lot looser than the other side, but I have a solution for that. I think if we just reduce the friction as much as possible on the yellow side, that will actually make everything a lot easier to control. And I'm gonna do that simply by removing the spring. This is something I actually did last time around on all 6 sides, but this time I think it should only be necessary on this one. And there we go. So now you can see that this yellow side is actually a lot looser than the white side, which means that if we just do this, the yellow side will turn by default, whereas if we go at a bit sharper of an angle, now we can still turn the white side. So that should make things a whole lot easier for us. But you know what? I think there still is one more little innovation that will actually help us out tremendously, and that is the edge of the table. So I have reconfigured the camera angle a little bit to give us easier access to, well, the edge of the table. And this should make things so much easier because we can just hold the cube flat and do whatever turns we want to. No more awkward tilting, trying to get the optimal angle just to turn this orange side. There we go. No, instead, we just put it against the edge of the table and it's as easy as that. So now that I think we've overcome all of the obvious obstacles, let's go ahead and scramble this cube up and see if we can solve it. No touching required. Inspection. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, and go. So start building this cross. I guess we kind of have to figure out the best way to turn this thing as we go. I guess kind of having the handle on the top makes it pretty easy. You kind of get the most maneuverability that way. Doing a D move, no problem at all. And then just a few more moves here. One to get the blue piece in, there we go. One to get this orange piece in, and then finding the green piece in the back, and there we go. There's our cross, no problem. Now let's see, do we have any good easy F12 pairs? Not particularly. Let's go ahead and do this green and orange one in the back. Okay, one problem that I'm very quickly running into is that it's very hard to see what you're doing as you're doing it, because like all the pieces are in the back relative to how the cube has to be held as you're turning it. So I kind of have to look at the cube, do a turn, look at the cube, do a turn over and over and over again. But nonetheless, with some careful planning, we are getting these F12 pairs in no problem. Another thing that I'm noticing is that it's very not obvious which direction to turn the cube. It's like I look, I say, okay, I have to turn it that direction, and then I immediately start turning it the opposite direction of what I need to do. Oh, and then it looks like the fourth and final one is actually going to be the easiest of them all. We can go ahead and do one more turn to finish off that sledgehammer, and we accidentally forced ourselves into a dot case. That is wonderful. Yeah, okay, so doing algorithms on this thing also is not the most convenient. So there we go. I'm not going to even attempt that OLL. Yeah, let's just do the beginner's method for this one. Yeah, doing M moves on this thing would be an absolute nightmare, I think. So let's just go ahead and do this OLL instead, which still isn't going to be super easy to remember, but I think I can probably figure it out. All right, that was a lot more treacherous than I expected. The final test, though, is can we do this Y-perm? Let's go ahead and get this lined up just to make it a little bit more obvious. I think out of all the PLLs, this is one that I can probably manage, but we'll see. Oh no, guys, I am struggling here. I don't think that's what a Y-perm is supposed to look like halfway through. Let's just undo that. Okay, so a Y-perm is F, R, U prime. Okay, I think I did a U instead of a U prime. That's the problem. Oh, did we do it? Okay, we at least got halfway. So this is going to be the world's longest Y-perm, but at least I think we can do it successfully. Oh, okay, here we are. Somehow managed to get just as confused on the second half, but there is our Rubik's Cube on a stick, complete, without touching it in just 7.5 minutes. In fact, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do another attempt, no talking, just concentrating as much as possible, and I'm actually gonna start with the yellow cross this time, which hopefully should make it a little bit easier to see what's going on as I'm doing it. I'll leave the full uncut version of this solve in the description down below, but for now, let's go ahead and do some inspection, and then we can begin solving this cube as fast as possible, but without touching it. 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, I got extremely confused on an A-perm and probably lost 30 seconds there, but 3:36 ain't bad. I think I could probably get sub 3 pretty easily with a few more practice solves, but you know what? Now that I think about it, I think OH with my right hand wouldn't be too bad after all. In all seriousness though, I think the no touching challenge is always going to be a little bit arbitrary because you're technically always touching it with something, be it the table or this handle or the stand that I made last time. But I think this is definitely a fun variation on it that I'm glad I tried. Even if it isn't quite as magical, it did allow us to get some faster times. But that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.